This lecture is brought to you by the Jerusalem Sober House. The Jerusalem Sober House is a structured, sober living facility located in the heart of Jerusalem, Israel. For more information on the Jerusalem Sober House and the services we provide, please visit us online at www.jerusalemsoberhouse.com. We hope you enjoy this lecture.
Good morning, everyone. I want to welcome everyone to our continuing education series here at the Jerusalem Sober House. This week, we are honored to have Yonah Pollak speaking to us, and he's probably one of the. He is a leader in the addictions field here in Israel. Has been working here for over 20 years, right, Yonah?
Yeah.
20 years. Consults with many schools, sees many clients, and he is going to be giving you a booklet, and he's going to be talking about a toolbox of therapeutic techniques in terms of working with the addicted clients. Again, thank you very much, Yonah, and take it away.
Thank you. Okay, Zephyr, thank you. So my name is Yonah Pollak. I'm a therapist. I specialize in addiction work and do all kinds of other behavioral work, cognitive work as well. I'm going to be handing out. You already saw it, so you okay. I'm going to be handing out materials. Did you have them? Okay. What I want to do is I want to ask that everybody just put it down, face down, with the back up, so you don't look at it at all. It's not easy to have something there and not look at it, because you want to open it up and go through it and figure out everything I'm going to say. But I'm doing this for a reason, because I'm going to present to you this material the way I present it to the people that I actually work with in counseling. Many of these ideas I actually present to the clients. And when I present it, I have a way of doing it. And if I give it over to you and you open up the book, then when I'm talking, you're reading. And you're just flying through, you already got it figured out, you know what I'm going to say, and I lose the presentation. And I believe that in counseling, presentation, relationship, the way that you're presenting, all that stuff is critically important to getting a message through. So if you're just somewhere else when I'm talking to you, then it doesn't work. And I want you to experience what it's like to hear this stuff the way I do it, because that's the way I want you to be able to do it when you end up giving it over. So you'll pass it out. Pardon?
So give it at the end of the lecture?
No, because in the middle I'm going to take you at certain points and have you open it up. Okay? Good. I wouldn't do that to you. I wouldn't torture you and then tell you. Just open it. It depends. Okay. Yeah. This is a book. This is a pamphlet that I put together. There's a lot of different materials in there from all different kinds of sources. You can look at the cover if you want to and go as far as that. This particular one was prepared for a Nefesh conference that I spoke at. Therapeutic Toolbox for religious therapists. This is really for all therapists. This is going to be a practical approach here of how-tos, how to do things, as opposed to theoretical stuff. You've got that. You got that in school. You got that in books. You got that from a lot of people. That's not. I mean, that's relevant, obviously, and that's background, and that's critical. But when you're sitting there one-on-one with the client, then you've got to be able to interact with him. You can't take the book out and say, whoa. Okay. I prepared this stuff. I'm doing this for a long time. It's a pretty basic general workshop that I give. It's 2 parts. And I've given it a lot in different places, in the Bay, in Nefesh, here, in other places. The reason that I continue to give it, even though some people might have heard it already, and are happy to correct me on it, it's a very effective, basic, and even advanced process. And in the next workshop, in the next piece, I'll go on to how to use some of this stuff more and bring in some more advanced concepts in terms of how I actually work. This is for you to keep, and it's for you to use as you need it. There's materials in here that you'll actually use. Okay? Okay, good. Okay. Now, but you got to work with me and not open it. Because if you open it, then it's going to be your loss. Okay, so. Okay. First thing is this. Okay. So we're going to talk about addictions Okay? Who wants to define to me how they understand what an addiction is? I scared you guys already. Everybody shook up here?
No.
Okay. No?
I'll try.
Go ahead.
An inability, when the consequences are very high, total inability to stop using whatever.
Good. Total inability to stop when the consequences are high. Okay. Okay, fine. Anybody else want to add anything onto that? It's a little bit too complicated for me, but that's okay. Anybody else? No? Okay.
Just down to earth, like losing sight of priorities, going against your own ideals.
Good. So going against what you want to do, taking you away from something that you want to do, almost like being overpowered to some degree. Okay. And what you said, Adam?
Yeah.
An inability to stop with the
Stop when
consequences.
the consequences are very high.
Okay, good.
No matter what the consequences are.
Good. No matter what the consequences are. Okay, fine. So, you know, addiction is probably one of the most, I guess, in terms of you know, the disease of addiction field, the mental health field, substance abuse field, addiction is probably second to codependency in terms of being used all the time and probably not properly even understood. It's used for everything. Okay. Codependency beats it a little bit because anybody that's got any kind of problem, the first thing I say is, "Oh, you're codependent." You know, and if I ask you what codependent, we're not going to do that one today, but that's a whole other ballgame. Okay. So I'm going to use the principle that I use a lot. I use a lot of acronyms. Okay. I'm a big acronym guy. I believe acronyms work. Vosotevos, if you want, in the Ivrit model. As Mike will see, I also don't trust. I'm a control freak, so I bring my own markers just in case you only have one, which you only had. So, you know, take responsibility for yourself. Okay.
There you go.
Kids principles. Okay. And these things work. Okay. These things kids remember. When I say kids, half my population is, I guess, the late adolescent, young adult, 17 to 22, 23, and the rest are older, you know, quote unquote normal people. So to speak. Okay. And so these things stick. They stick in your head, you remember them, and they work. Okay. So the KISS principle, basically, and if you can't read it when I'm writing it, you're supposed to not be able to read it because I'm trying to make it so that I'll just show it to you when it's done. Okay. So the KISS principle says, keep it simple, stupid. Now, most of you probably heard that somewhere, I would think. It's used a lot. Keep it simple, stupid. Okay. So basically what that means is don't complicate the heck out of it. Studies were done, most plans that don't work because they're too big. So we keep it simple, stupid. So in this regard, I'm trying to keep it simple, stupid. We're trying to understand addictions. I'm going to give you the definition that the WHO, the World Health Organization, uses. I'm not going to give you my definition. I'm going to give you a well-established foundation, world-known, how it defines addiction. Okay? You have to forgive me on my spelling because I'm just completely terrible at it. No matter how many times I try, I can't seem to get, even when I have the stuff right in front of me. You have this written in that book, okay? So don't worry about it. If you want to take notes, you can. I'll tell you the areas that are not in the book that I think would be helpful if you want to jot them down. Okay. So, this says an addiction is a reoccurring pathological relationship, abbreviation here, with a person, thing, or event with life-damaging consequences. Okay, that's how they define it. Okay, these are a lot of words. Okay, but there's reasons for this particular approach, and there's reasons why I'm giving you this over. In about 5 to 10 minutes, and I'm going to give you a short working definition. But this is a good teaching definition. This is a good definition to try and help you broaden your mind a little bit as to what we're talking about. Okay. Don't call out. Anybody who has seen me do this before, don't answer. That means you. Because then you just know the answer. Okay. I'm trying to get you to like think it through. Okay. If you got to pick one word in this statement, that is the most important word. That is the word that really speaks to you. It shouts out what addiction is. Which word would you pick? You know, it's hard, isn't it?
I knew it the first time, basically.
Yeah, I got you. Which word would you pick? Raise your hand and I'll pick on you. I don't want you to just scream it out. You got a reoccurring pathological relationship with a person, thing, or event with life-damaging consequences. You got to pick one.
I've never done it. Okay. I would probably pick pathological.
Okay, great. So that's a great word, but it's not exactly what I have in mind. Okay, I'm looking for something a little bit different. Okay, don't blurt out. You?
Reoccurring.
Reoccurring.
That was my second choice.
All right. I like games.
I know you did. I know you did.
No, they help people think. Absolutely right. Hold on just one second. Great, great. Not what I had in mind. Now you guys are right now entering. No, really, hold on just one second. Hold on. You're entering right now what's called, I've done this about 20 times already. I've spoken about this 20 times I've done this lecture. You're entering the normal range of how many times it takes to get it right. Usually it's about 4. Okay, usually. Okay, 3 or 4. 1 or 2 cases I've gotten it 1, which blows my whole thing because then I don't get to like show you why. Okay. So before anybody gives anything more now, which I want you to do, I want you to stop for a second and think. Because you just thought, and I'm sure other people in this room had the same things in their head. Reoccurring pathological. I'm sure all of them, not just you two guys, but I'm sure others did too. Someone else said, that was my guess, was going to be reoccurring, right?
Yeah, that was my second.
So that means that I'm looking for something different than you're looking for. It means you're thinking in a certain way different than the way I'm trying to get you to think. Which means there's something that, lightly put, you're overlooking. Okay. Another hand raised, you.
He's comparing to relation with consequences. I think I'll go for consequences.
Consequences, okay, great. Great word. You enter the 4 category. There you go.
My first one, you should know my first guess was relationship.
She's right.
What?
Explain.
That is my wife. You
I'm
know?
not going to know what to expect, okay? Tatiana's right. Okay. Relationship. And I'm glad I didn't pick on her first. I don't think her hand was even raised first until she saw everybody was messing this up. Because I wanted it to come, you know, later on. Relationship. Okay. That's the most important word on the board. Relationship. Okay? Why? I'm not going to explain to you why. Okay? Okay. Okay. Let's come over here now. And first of all, let's just look at the sentence for a second, okay? Now, I'm not interested in English grammar. And English grammar is not interested in me, trust me, okay? We don't get along very well. But if you were to go to a grammatical place, so reoccurring and pathological are both adjectives, you know, that are coming to define relationship. what kind of relationship you have. This is a direct object, which relationship comes on to. And this, somebody told me a couple times, it's something called a dangling participle, which I don't know what that is, but that's what they said, okay. So structurally, the sentence is set up for a relationship, but that's not what I'm interested in, okay. If we've got to pick the 4 basic addictions that an addiction therapist or addiction counselor works with, I'll tell you what they are, and now we've got new ones, but I'm not including this in the core piece at this time. But we're going to speak about it. We're going to speak about it throughout this 2-part workshop. But the basic ones are drugs, alcohol, sex, and food. These are the basics. Now we've got internet stuff, which is probably going to be sex mostly anyway. 80% of internet traffic is pornographic related, from what I heard. 80%. So we've got internet. We'll just throw it in there, internet. And we've got gambling. These are the new ones, so to speak. Let's just leave them out for this purpose of the basics, and we can include them at different points. Okay. These are the 4 basic addictions that an addictions person would be working with. But you can add work, you can add love, addiction, you can add all those things. They're definitely part of it. You know. But these are the 4 now. Now we get to start fights, okay, where I say things that are aggressive and you challenge me, okay. So there's nothing wrong with any of these 4 things. Nothing wrong with them. Not only is there anything wrong with them, not wrong with them, they're all required by Torah. Every single one. Okay.
Not in every case. It could be a person wouldn't eat drugs their whole life.
Could be what?
Like, could be a person wouldn't eat drugs their whole life. In other words, they don't need coffee, they don't need, let's say they're perfectly healthy, the doctor never prescribes them anything.
Could be. All right, not in every case, right? Depends. Well,
It's unusual, probably.
It's unusual. Depends on the case, okay. Does anybody want to fight with me? There's these 4 things. There's nothing wrong with any of them, including drugs, which is the one people make with drugs. And they're all required by Torah. Any fights?
Okay, alcohol is required by Torah, I see, on like certain time, not all, not the opposite.
No, nothing's required by Torah all the time.
Okay,
None of these
okay,
things, no.
right, okay.
Do I have to explain this, or do you guys all basically get it? Do you get it?
If you want to
I
be
get
more
Okay.
provocative, you should have said that before talking about relationships.
Right, but I didn't want to do that. Yeah, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do it right. I'm going to be provocative enough. Okay. So if we,
You calm down.
I love this laugh. Okay, I also believe in having fun when I do this. You know, if you guys haven't figured out, I really enjoy my work. I'm lucky that I can do something that I enjoy, and I think most people that are in this field, by the way, really, really do enjoy it. Okay, so I'll make it simple. Okay, let's leave drugs because that's a complicated one. Alcohol, required by, not required all the time. Kiddush, okay, Purim, Pesach, okay, fine, wonderful. Sex, the first mitzvah in the Torah, Peru Avu, all kinds of Gemaras, Shulchan Aruch, sex, what's allowed, and all the rest of that stuff. Food, Basar Halav, Suda, it's everywhere. Drugs. Okay. So the way that drugs is because if a person gets ill, as Adam was talking about, then the Torah says you need to go to a doctor, you need to do what the doctor says, and you need to avail yourself of the best medical help that you can avail yourself of. And usually that's going to require drugs. People then go, oh, you mean those kinds of drugs? And I say, yes, I mean those kinds of drugs. Drugs aren't just, like 8 to 10, goodies. Like marijuana, which hash is considered part of marijuana, hash, similar. Mushrooms, acid, coke, heroin, Xannies, and the family, the benzodiazepines, all that. It's not just that stuff, okay? Although in that category I just mentioned, Xanax, Valium, these are benzodiazepines. These are actual legal drugs. I've got a book that I didn't bring today, It's about this thick. It's like too heavy to carry around. It's like the drug book. It's got 3,000 drugs in that book. You know, drugs is a very, very, very big industry, one of the biggest in the world. And they are required by Torah. If you've got a terrible infection, I'll tell you the antibiotics, whatever you got to do. Okay. So there's nothing wrong with any of these things. Okay? The problem is not the things. It's the relationship that one establishes with the thing. That's the key to any kind of addiction work, is the relationship. And an addiction counselor, therapist, whatever you want to call him, there are different levels, but still, an addictions person's job is to identify the relationship that exists. He has to identify it for 3 reasons. Because he has to know what the heck he's looking at. He has to then help you, as a client, understand what you're looking, what you've got. Then he has to be able to treat it. And the way he treats it depends upon what it is. Okay. Now, to follow my own preachings, the KISS principle, okay? Keep it simple, stupid. There are, and I'm oversimplifying a lot of this stuff because I'm a very big Talmud of the KISS principle. There are 4 kinds of relationships that one might have with these things. Okay, this you might want to write down because I don't think it's exactly in there. It could be, but there's 4 types of relationships that can exist. The first one is experimental. The second one is recreational. The third one is abusive. And the 4th one is dependent or addictive. I use the words interchangeably. Okay? Those 4 relationships. Experimental, recreational, abusive, and dependent or addictive. Okay? Those are that's the basic structure. Okay? Right. Okay. So, what's the difference? Okay. These obviously follow a continuum from less serious experimental to more serious dependent. Okay. Experimental is experimental. It means a person experiments with alcohol. Okay. Almost every I don't know the statistics, but I've heard different statistics on different things. But I would say 98% of the college population has tried alcohol at some point in their life. Not 100%. Tried it. Because they had a beer, had a glass of wine. They experimented with it. Okay? Marijuana. Experimental usage. Trying it, using it once or twice, 2 or 3 or 4 times, seeing what it is. Okay? There are actually statistics high. I think 90% have tried marijuana. 75% have used it on some recreational basis, something like that. I don't know what they are, so don't quote me. But I know that they're relatively high of college population. Okay, so recreational. Recreational is a little bit different than experimental. It means that you now like it. And you enjoy it. And you use it on some moderate basis in your life, which is, forget about the nature of the substance. Let's look at the process, the relationship process, okay, is relatively healthy, okay?
Nothing.
Relatively healthy, okay? Forget about the actual, what the actual thing that we're talking about is, okay? Okay. When we're talking about marijuana and things of that sort, so you might smoke. I don't know. It's hard to say exactly what's recreational. Once or twice a month. Go out once a week, have 2 beers, something like that. Okay. We don't worry about these things so much, except for the potentiality of development of them. That's what's concerning us more than anything else. Okay?
Yeah.
That's why one,
Question, I mean, does the amount of times you actually use something really matter if we're talking about because we're talking about a relationship.
right.
We're not talking about how many times, I can see somebody 15 times a day for 20 years and have no emotional contact with them, or I can meet somebody once and they could be that one person that I can think about for the rest of my life. And we're talking about a relationship, not necessarily times.
Right, right. So usually, it's usually very unusual that a person would have an abusive or dependent relationship with a substance that they used once. Now, you might be talking about something called preoccupation, which is, thinking in your mind and desiring something but not using it. But I'm talking over here more about a behavioral situation going on, in terms of the relationship that's existing behaviorally. What you're talking about is the impact that something might have on somebody. But like I say, it's unusual that you would have. In other words, you probably, when I say the words abusive and dependent, I'm talking behaviorally. I'm not talking emotionally in your mind, feeling the desire to want to use. Let's say a person tried cocaine one time. Okay. Now, okay. Let's say he uses it once a year. Okay. So you might have quote unquote a recreational relationship with cocaine, which I think is very dangerous. Now he might think about it a lot. And he might be very advanced. in that desire. But he's not crossing over into the behavioral component. So I'm talking behaviorally when I'm using that concept. But it's a very good point. There is something called preoccupation, which we'll get into, because preoccupation is a tricky thing that counselors cannot pick up and fall for. But let me move a little bit. Okay. So usually, in terms of like when you're talking about usually going along your lines, if a person's marijuana use is increasing, he's probably going to end up in an abusive kind of relationship as opposed to a recreational relationship. That will probably have something to do with number of times used, but it also will have other factors involved with it too. It's not only that. That's not the only variable. Okay? Good point. Okay. So we're not, for purposes of trying to be concise and not taking hours on this, because I can do this for 3 hours today, 3 hours next week. We're not so concerned with experimental and recreational. We are concerned, definitely, anytime a person experiments with an illegal drug, an illicit drug, or even with legal drugs, but on a non-medical basis, we're concerned. But they're not. As long as they stay experimental, okay, fine. And if they're recreational and they remain recreational, fine. Okay. The problem is that this is a slippery slope. And it depends upon each person's personality. And people that are more addictively predisposed, if something feels good, then they usually want more. And that takes them to different levels. Abusive and dependent. Those are the two we're looking at. Okay. Now, there's usually a question that people have at this point when I talk about these two. So does anybody want to ask me a question about
What's the
abusive and
line?
dependent?
What's the line? Where does one cross?
What's the line? There you go. I mean, I have to basically push you into that one, but okay. Okay, so in the material that you have, you've got some printouts from. Don't go into it. Don't open it. See, you can't do that. You even got it open.
I didn't know that. I came late, so I didn't know.
So you don't open the material. See, I love it. I love it. Yeah. See, you can't. That's it. Just Adam, keep it simple, stupid.
Okay.
Just real simple. Okay.
Unfortunately, I didn't hear the rule. You must have said it.
Yes, I said don't open the material. Right. Simple rule. Okay. Anyway, let's go on. Okay. Okay. In your material, you've got some printouts from the DSM-4. Does anybody not know what the DSM-4 is? Okay, you got printouts, good. And that gives you the criteria for substance abuse and substance dependence. Okay, so we're not going to hold by that. We're not going to get into that right now. That's just there, and we'll mention it, and you can reference it. For teaching purposes and for simplicity purposes, the basic difference in abusive and dependent has to do with Adam's definition of addiction, actually. Now, what was your definition of addiction when I asked you?
The inability to stop despite very serious consequences.
Okay, so that's a great definition of where one could say the line is. There's different opinions, but okay. Basically, the difference is when you've got consequences, and there's serious consequences, you're able to internalize those consequences and make a decision, that this stuff is just, too risky now. Okay? That shows that a person is still connected to his value system, to his principles, to his reality, so to speak. Okay? I'll give you a simple case scenario. Okay? Let's say IBM decides it wants the urine test. Okay? And they've done research and they've shown that there are, worldwide population due to substance abuse. They're looking primarily for marijuana, but they're looking for all drugs that are not used medically. Outside of alcohol, let's say. We're not including that in this particular survey. They say, we've lost $20 billion in productivity. So we're going to urine test now. Okay? If you flunk the first urine screen, then you need to, and it's going to be random, you need to see a counselor one time. So if you flunk the second urine screen, you need to see a counselor weekly. And if you flunk the third urine screen, you then are basically out of the company on temporary leave. You get no benefits. You can only come back if you've gone into some kind of a facility. You have to be diagnosed by an addiction specialist. Minimally speaking, you need to go to an outpatient program, possibly a rehab program. You've got to give clean urine for a year. You get no benefit. You'll just get really ripped apart. Okay, it's bad. Okay, consequences are not good. No income, no nothing. Okay, so okay. Do this testing, and two guys, Mo and Pete, keep it simple. They flunked the first urine test. Okay. And then me, counselors, do you guys understand this? Yes, it's serious. Do you like working here? We like working here. Is your job? My job's important. Do you need? We need the income. But can you stop? We can stop. So why didn't you? Well, we got two more tests. So one more. We figure. Well, okay. Well, wonderful. Okay, great. Okay, go to the next time. Okay, they flunk again. Okay, guys, you're playing with fire now. Yeah, but we could stop. Both. What would happen if you had to go to rehab? Oh my God, my family would go crazy, and the reputation, and the money, and the blah blah blah. I won. And they take the second urine test. Flunk that. Okay. Now, guys, got one more test left. The same story, and they both say the same thing. You'll see, Mrs. Therapist, you'll see. Okay. And then the third urine test comes, and the first guy, Mo, gets clean urine, and the other guy, Pete, does not. Okay, what's the difference? So we would say that there's a different relationship that those two guys have with that substance. Because when push comes to shove and the cards are on the line, Mo is able to integrate the consequences into his values, into his reality, and he's able to keep his behavior consistent with his beliefs. Maybe it takes a lot to motivate him to do that, but he can do it. Okay, Pete cannot do that. Pete will keep talking about how important everything is to him, and yet he'll use. We'll put Pete. This is where the fancy word in this sentence everybody jumps at. Why everybody misses usually is pathological. See, pathological sounds important, you know, and it gets everybody, you know. And this is where the pathological component comes in. And this is the word that we can use when we start talking about the disease model, you know, is the pathological word. Because pathological comes from the Greek word pathos, you know. And, you know, it's a unhealthy word. It means, you've heard the concept of pathological liars, right? It means you just do it. You're like, you can't really control it, right? You're just pathologically, it just happens, okay? Pathological, you know, means that there's something going on that's outside of one's control, you know, one's, you know, connection, grounding with reality and value system, right? And that's where problems come. And that's where denial, pathological is the home that denial lives in, okay? Okay, so that's the basic difference, right? That's the basic difference, like that. That's the basic difference between those two things. So we've got, now, abuse is not okay. We don't condone it, we don't want it, you know, we can slip into dependency, you know. But abuse is a different kind of relationship. The person doesn't really need it. He does need it, but you know, it doesn't overtake it. Okay? Okay, good. If we've got an abuser, we want him to understand that. We don't want to comfort him with the fact that he's not addicted or dependent. We want to basically concern him with the fact that he could be, you know, very, very easily. And, you know, and we want to encourage him to pull back. Okay? You know, he will try to control it. Maybe he can, maybe he can't. Okay? You know, we will try to go no control abstinence. But that's going on to the next level we're talking about. Okay, good. Okay. Okay. Now I want to give you another definition. That's a very simple working definition. If you want to work with somebody, because this is although I do give this to most of the people that I work with, because I want them themselves to understand that what we're looking at is the relationship that they have. The other definition is compulsive use in spite of negative consequences. That's a very quick, short, handy definition to use. Compulsive use in spite of negative consequences. Now, you notice, in both of these definitions, there's nothing mentioned about drugs or anything else, sex, food. These are generic definitions because one can have, and one reason why I like this one, with the personal thing of revenge, because there can be all different kinds of addictions. There can be people addictions, love addiction, okay, codependency, okay? You can have thing addictions, which is where you would have drugs and alcohol. You can have event addictions, which is gambling, sex, work. So they don't have to be thing-based. They don't have to be, you know, concrete, like in that form. They can take on, there's a whole, one can have an addiction with many things, okay? It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is there compulsive use in spite of negative consequences? If there is, then you got a problem. Okay? All right, good. Okay. Any questions so far? No. Okay. Okay. Let's move on a little bit. So, as I mentioned before, the key role of the addictions counselor is to understand this relationship. How does he do it? Okay. Well, the first thing you got to do is you got to take a history. You have to have a good history of what this relationship looks like. Okay? I'm going to show you how to do that, a certain way that I do it, but not this moment. We're going to put that off a few minutes, and we're going to jump into some of the things that we're looking for. Because when we do a history, we're looking for certain things. What are you going to do? Okay. He was already in this now. She's got the book, and he's got the book, and he knows the book, and so what am I going to do? Okay. He even gave me a compliment. Told me he actually learned something from it. Wow. Okay, but we'll keep that between us.
It was an amazing lecture. That might come the second time.
Okay. Okay. Anyways, all kidding aside, what I'm going to give you now is the kinds of things that we're looking for in a history. Okay. Besides times used and drugs used, these things I would suggest that you write down if you want to have them because they're not in your material. Okay. Okay. Besides history, because we're going to give you a form for that you have, and we're going to go through that in a few minutes. We'll do as much as we can today. Progression.
Are you talking about subtitles in history or another subject?
No, I'm talking. These are the kinds of things that an addictions counselor is going to be looking for when he's doing a history, and when he's working with a potential abuser, addict, substance user, any person with a problem. In order for him to help assess, he's going to be looking for these following qualities, these following traits, okay? To the degree that they're present, then that helps him diagnose what he's looking for. To the degree that they're not, then the person is safer, okay, and healthier. So let me tell you what they are, okay? Okay. The first one is progression. Progression and escalation. They sound like the same thing, but they're not the same thing. Progression implies moving up the ladder into different kinds of substances. Let's use drugs as an example. Okay, let's use drugs as the addiction that we're talking about. Progression means like moving up from marijuana to maybe tranquilizers, and from tranquilizers up to mushrooms up to LSD, moving up the ladder. That's progressing. He's progressing. Okay. Escalation is more usage within the same substance. His marijuana use is escalating. Okay, this use is escalating, which means numbers and things around it. Instead of him just smoking up, once a month, he's smoking up 4 times a month. Instead of just smoking up, not numbers now, but in terms of how he's doing it, instead of smoking up before, occasionally with friends, he's now buying it. He's not smoking up alone, right? So we have an escalation in that relationship. Okay, 2 different terms. We want to see both of them. We want to, because the guy might never have progressed up beyond marijuana to other drugs. Yet his marijuana use might be escalating a lot. Okay? Good. The next one that we're looking at is denial. Okay. Denial is a great one. Okay? Now we're going to have to get rid of some of this stuff because you guys will have this anyway. We're going to leave it alone. And we're going to do a very quick acronym of denial, which some of you people know. This you do have in your material, so you don't need to write it down. Denial. Okay. Okay. They said denial stands for don't even know I am lying. Okay? Now, usually everybody comes and says, well, Yonah, you can't say no. There's no like that. There's like no K. You're missing a K and a W. Okay? So my answer is...
in denial about it?
Yeah, right. No. My answer is that, most of the people that I'm lecturing to are religious. It's like, you religious guys, pull this shtick with gematria all the time. When you're doing gematrias and you're missing like a letter, missing a number, well, the thing itself stands for the 1. Or you're missing 4, you need 4 in the gematria to work. Well, there's 4 words in the sentence. So if you guys can you know, stick that in there, gematria, I can do it with this stuff, okay? Okay. Don't even know I'm lying. And this is the truth. Somebody who's really in denial, pure denial, and I've seen it happen before, can be given a lie detector test. You know, now this is more pathological. You know, this is really unusual. You know, and they will believe what they're saying. Okay, it's unusual. It depends upon different circumstances, but you know, but it's very. In other words, for all intents and purposes, lie detector tests are very effective. They do work, and I do use them, by the way. I actually have whatever you want to call it. You know, I won't use the word, but you know, I do sometimes require people to have lie detector tests when I don't believe them, and we can't rely. Either it's an addiction that we can't monitor through screening, like gambling, you know, and the chips are on the line, or something else, pornography or something of that sort. We will just set that up as part of the model, you know, that it could happen. And when a person knows that could happen, it changes the tables tremendously. Tremendously. And that's not for now, that's more for treatment. But, you know, and most people are scared to use that. That makes them nervous. I'm not scared to use it, I do it. It's not illegal because I'm not an institution, it's between me and the client. I say, listen, I don't believe you. Your wife doesn't believe you. You know, you've got a history of this. You know, very simple. You agree for a random lie detector test on your gambling at any time throughout this. And just that will be one of the most effective interventions you can do to a person. I'm telling you. Okay? And then when the guy does use and does lie in it, you say the only thing worse than, like, you know, using this is like lying about it. Particularly when you're on, and they, as they get closer to the test, they usually get considerably more honest. You know, when they're sitting in a chair, you'd be surprised what kind of things come out of their mouths. Okay? I say if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen, because sometimes you got to do it. Okay? I tell this to seasoned veterans in America. They think I'm crazy. You know, Yonah, you can't do that, maybe. Of course you can do that. I mean, institutions can't, schools can't require it, jobs can't require it, but individual counselors can do anything they want between them and the client. I can tell a guy, you know, for me to work with you, you have to go horseback riding 4 times a week. If I want to. Okay. Anyways. Don't even know I'm lying. Okay. Dr. Avram Tversky, great guy. He says, how do you know when an addict's lying? Huh?
Their lips are moving.
You got it. Anytime their lips are moving. For those that haven't heard it, anytime their lips are moving, that's how you know when they're lying. Okay? Good. Good. Now, what I want to do now is I want to test you guys to see if you can actually handle this. And it's not so simple. Okay.
Is it so prevalent to lying? I mean, don't you have a client who say, listen,
Pardon?
is it that? I want to leave the humor a little bit and ask you, with your experience, is the lying so prevalent in a way that people will come in to treatment knowing that they're going to lie? I mean, they are coming for treatment. No.
KISS principle. The answer is yes.
I'm not asking, I obviously understand people lie. I'm asking the basis of your understanding of treatment is that you're coming to lie to me. Even though they're coming.
Could be.
But
First
that's
of all,
what this.
first-
Don't
yeah.
know. They don't know.
Okay, okay.
Or realize, like.
Or-
They know, they don't know. Okay, hold on. You know, see, the problem is that, you know, I mean, the lovely Sober House is a great place. Gives me an hour and a half to speak on something that takes 3 hours, 3 times. 3 weeks for 3 hours. You know, so, you know, I can't answer all the questions. I'd love to. But to make it simple, okay. There's different, there's different, some people come to treatment don't even want to be in treatment. They have to be in treatment. The school makes them be in treatment. They're going to be lying. Some people come to treatment, they want to be in treatment. It's not black and white. Lying is part of resistance. You know, part of resistance. You know, they would like to not lie, but they're scared to not lie. They don't know how to, you know. So it's pretty pervasive. It depends upon each person's thing. It should get better. In other words, for a person who wants to be in treatment, willing to be in treatment, as the relationship between the client and the therapist moves, And the willingness is there, hopefully. The lying should get better and less and less and less. Okay? But it's part of the symptomology of the disease, if we use that word. Okay? And there's reasons for it, which I'll get into it as we move up, hopefully. Okay. Now, take your book. You got it this way? Good. Go from the back. Go from the back of the book. Okay? Just flip through the back slowly, slowly, slowly. There's an article that you'll see, if you flip through, that says addictologia, or addictive thinking. This is where you'll see it from the back of the book. This is what it looks like. If you go from the back of the book, put the book this way. See, keep it simple, stupid. Nobody can do it. It's unbelievable. Take the book, put it this way, and turn through it. And you're going to, put it this way actually. Put it this way, I'm sorry, wrong. Go and flip through here, and you will come, as you flip through, and you'll see alcohol substance abuse problems, and then you'll see addictologia or addictive thinking. Has everybody got this? Everybody got it? Anybody not have this page? Not on this page. Still finding it, Donnie, huh? You know what they say, my friend? Some are sicker than others, right? Okay, we got it? Okay, good. Now, good. Don't respond, okay. Now, this is, okay. I noticed that this lady over here, I don't know your name, has this book. Yes? So this article is a copy of the first chapter. I think you got the whole chapter. In Dr. Tversky's book, Addictive Thinking. I, with his permission, photocopied it. It's 4 or 5 pages, and put it in here. Why? Because it's potently powerful. Okay? And if we look at this together, okay, all we need, is like this is the very first thing he says in his book. Is this. Chapter 1, right over here. It is absolutely possible for me to stop on my own, maybe. Then he goes on and he says, I was interviewing a young man who had been admitted to a rehabilitation unit for drug addiction. What made you decide it was time to do something about the problem? I asked. I've been on cocaine for a few years, the man replied, and on several occasions I didn't use for a few weeks at a time. But I'd never before decided to stop for good. Okay? That's a rationalization, just so you should know that. For the past year, my wife has been pressuring me to stop completely. She used to do cocaine herself, but she has been off for several years now. I saw it wasn't worth the hassle, so I decided to give it up completely. So now he's decided to stop completely. I was sincere in my determination to stop for good, but after 2 weeks I started up again. And that proved something to me. I'm not stupid. I now know that it is absolutely impossible for me to stop on my own. Maybe. Now that's a great statement. See? And I can tell that to you all I want. But printing it out and giving it to you and letting you look at it, and giving it to you that you can read to your client when he gives you his mumble jumble is a little different story. Okay? Now, I wanted the man to hear what he had just said. So I repeated his last sentence several times. He could not see what I was trying to point out to him. I said, it's perfectly logical to say, maybe I can stop by myself. It's perfectly logical to say it's absolutely impossible for me to stop by myself. But to say, I now know that it's absolutely possible for me to stop on my own, maybe, is an absurd statement because it is self-contradictory. It is either absolutely possible or maybe, but cannot be both. And then he goes on to say something that's very important. Very important. I have later repeated this conversation to a number of people and even seasoned therapists. Let me say that again. Even seasoned therapists. Initially show no reaction, waiting for me to give the punchline. Only after I point out The contradiction is absolutely possible, and maybe do they see the absurdity of the statement and the distortion of thought taking place in this man's mind? Okay. The rest of the article you read on your own. I don't need to go over it with you, but it's very good. And that is the emes. And this person, when he makes that statement, believes it. It's absolutely impossible. It's absolutely impossible for me to stop on my own. Maybe. Okay. That's a taste of denial. Okay, now you close your book, because if you leave it open, you're going to start meandering through it. Okay, good. No, I don't trust you. Okay. People that are clients of mine, when we're talking about certain things, they say, well, don't you trust me with such and such? You know, I'm going to go to this place and there's going to be a using there, concert. I'm not going to use you. Don't you trust me? So I say to them, I trust you. 100%. I just don't trust your disease. Okay? In reality, I don't really trust them, but I can't tell them that. Okay? Okay. Now, okay. So we're talking about things that you should be looking for, right? In a history process, or even after a history, in the ongoing dialoguing with your client, progression, we talked about, escalation, denial.
If they're lying so much, how can you even trust the history they're giving you?
That's a good question. Well, you can confirm it if you need to. It depends. Not everybody's lying so much. There are all different kinds of people. Not everybody's lying so much. It depends. And what you usually can do, what I've been able to do pretty well, is to develop some kind of rapport with this client, some kind of relationship, where I can try to get the truth from him for a variety of reasons. You might get some distortion at the beginning. You might get a lot of distortion, but it's a hard thing to say. Whether you know. But you can sort of know how much your client's lying, and if he's lying, based upon questions being asked again in different ways, and other things that go back around with it. It's also a matter of the connection basis, and a lot of it has to do, besides with willingness to come to treatment, but a lot of stopping lying, what I was talking about, has to do with the confidentiality component of the relationship. So I'll just throw that out real quick while we're here. I do it later, but I'll just do it right now. It's very, very, very important. There's confidentiality. And the very first thing I tell any client that walks in my room is ask him how old he is. And when he's 18 or older, and I even give him confidentiality at 17, but that's my own choice. I say, listen, you ever been into therapy before? He says, yeah, we go through that whole business. You know about confidentiality? Yeah, but I don't believe it. They screwed me over here, there, and it happens a lot. Or they don't, it's the first time. He doesn't know what confidentiality is. Either one. So I tell him, there's something called confidentiality. Confidentiality means that I can only disclose, I can't disclose anything you tell me without your permission. Period. Except for two circumstances. That means I can't even say that you came here. I can't even acknowledge your presence in this room. If your father calls me up and says, I want to talk to you about my son, I understand what to see you. I can't even say, I'm not allowed to discuss him with you. Due to confidentiality. I can't even say that. Because that implies that he's a client of mine. And he might not even want his father to know that he's a client of mine. Okay? That's how far it goes, okay? And just that is a break of confidentiality. People don't really understand that. But that is a break of confidentiality. So the only conditions upon which you can break confidentiality are serious self-harm potential, where the guy's going to overdose, or commit suicide, or do something very serious to his health. And smoking marijuana does not categorize in this category. Okay, it has to be serious abuse, has to be, either some suicide ideation, has to be that this guy is really a serious, explosion waiting to happen. Okay, that's one ground. The other ground is he is seriously a threat to somebody else. He's going to kill somebody else. He's talking about it, something of that sort. Serious harm to self or others, allows confidentiality breaking. Now, I always tell my clients, if we ever have to break confidentiality, which has happened very few times that I've seen people, and it has happened more than that, but I say it occasionally happens. Occasionally. It doesn't happen very often, and I don't have to know exactly what that means. Then I will always involve you in the process. I will never just go and do it. I will always try to contact you and say, we got to break confidentiality, let's do it together, let's do it this way, rather than just do it. Okay. Now, I say I'm a very, very big believer in confidentiality. But most people, I'm going to tell you 2 reasons why I'm a big believer in confidentiality. Now, the first reason is the real reason. The second reason is not really the real reason, but it will make all the difference in the world to you. The first reason will not matter to you very much. Depends. The second reason will make a lot more sense to you. So what are they? Okay. The first reason why I'm a big believer in confidentiality is because you can't help somebody that you don't really know what's going on with them. Right? If you don't know the history, if you don't know the degree, you don't know the nature, if you don't know what's happening, you don't know the current, you can't help them. Because you're treating this and they got this and you're going there and they're going here and you don't even know what's going on. But that doesn't matter to a lot of people. Why do you think it doesn't matter to a lot of people?
They're not really trying to help, I guess I can imagine.
They don't want to be there. Many of them don't want to be there.
Oh, for them.
What?
Well, I thought you meant about for the therapist.
That's what I thought.
I don't know.
No, for the client. The client doesn't, it's forced. I can't tell you how many people I get mandated to me. It's like the kid smokes, uses, drinks, pops pills, takes it, whatever, and it's almost like they've got this like court case where they're pleading it. The Rosh Hashiva is sitting there, and then you got the kid's rabbi and the kid. It's like a court case, and the Rosh Hashiva, okay, fine. He takes the gavel, bangs it, Yonah 4 times. I sentence you to Yonah 4 times. Then we'll see from there. I can imagine it happening, So they don't. So I got to get around that, and Baruch Hashem, I and I'm sure Leibish and many people that know how to interact with these kids are able to do that. I can get a guy after 2 or 3 times to want to come, and if I got to even talk about drugs, I won't even talk about drugs right away, because that's not where he's at. I got to get him in. I got to get him to work with me. So, he doesn't want to be there. Doesn't want to be there. Then he doesn't care about this psychobabble of why it's important for him. He doesn't trust me. He's been screwed over before. Doesn't trust me. So that's the first reason, which is the real reason why I very much hold by it. The second reason, which has some truth, but it ain't the real reason, and it makes all the difference in the world to these guys. What do you think it is? Does anybody have a guess? Do you know?
Yeah, I know.
They don't say it because it's ego, buddy.
It's not ego.
Don't say it. Let them say it.
I do the same thing.
But
I
let
don't
them.
even know what you're
But let
into.
them. But let them say it. Let them say it. Because I don't want them to think. If you know, you just let them go through the thing.
That they're worried about other people. As long as you don't tell anybody else, then I'm safe.
Okay, that's not the second.
Okay.
To me,
Okay.
I mean, what I think really jars them, what really jars them and gets them to move it, is not that. Anybody else? What will cause them to really believe this guy actually keeps confidentiality? No other guesses?
Oh,
Because you care about them?
You're gonna love this. What?
Because you care about them?
Nice, but no. We're talking much more basic than that. We're talking primary here.
He screwed up himself?
What?
He screwed up himself?
No. See now, ladies know that. If I would have let him say this, you guys wouldn't have gone through this thing. And that's what I got to do. You know what I mean? I got to let you go through this so you can think. And now you're open. See, now you're interested because you already tried 3 different times. This, by the way, is the principle in any kind of working where they got to get interested. Now they want to know. Okay. One more. I got to make a difference in that. They don't care about people knowing. They don't want to get help. Screw themselves over. No. Why would they believe me? Basics. Okay, I'll tell you why. So I tell them, listen, if for no other reason, then I'm just a greedy businessman. And I don't want to ruin my business or my reputation. I break confidentiality, you know what happens? You tell your friends, tomorrow's newspaper, Yonah Pollak, can't trust him, breaks confidentiality. My business gets cut in half. I lose money. So if it's just money, okay? Just money. It doesn't make sense to break confidentiality, right? And the kid sits there and he goes, man, I tried this like years ago. I just figured it out of nowhere because I had to do something, you know. The kid says, right, I never thought of that before. And then I realized there's a power to that. I never thought of that before. It makes a big difference because they say, I swear you take a face never. So that's in confidentiality, okay? That little thing can affect, you know, it's interesting because there's so many things. If that's all you get today, and you can get a guy to do confidentiality with you because of that, then it's helpful. You know? Because many of them will, okay? Okay, good. For those of you that, you know, don't come from the same school that Levish and I come from, that's called out of the box. Okay, that's out of the box thinking, okay? Which you got to do with these guys a lot. Okay, good. We're in denial. Okay, talking about denial. Okay, okay. Because this is the response to Tatiana's question, which is a good question. Also, Tatiana, you sometimes have to repeat histories as things get closer and say, I know you lied to me. You weren't trusting me. I know, you know, and stuff like that. Okay. You know, you can't always go on the first time. Sometimes you have to verify things. It all depends. Okay.
So like in the beginning, in an initial history where a person's probably lying to you, I feel like all you can really get is a general idea if they're a user, abuser, addict.
Right. But you know, you can tell.
Of denial.
Right, but you can tell. You can tell. When I do the history form with you, I'll show you. I'll show you how you can tell a little bit, okay? I have a history form that I'm going to use that maybe we can get to today. If not, we'll do it. I'll do it next time. And I'm going to have to take less questions because I don't have a lot of time. Unless you want to just give me an extra half an hour, but that's up to you guys. Next week, okay? Okay. Let's move on. Okay. Tolerance. You're going to be looking for tolerance. These are things that you're looking for. Okay? So, when we're looking for tolerance, I've got a sheet of criteria for chemical dependency, which I didn't photocopy, which maybe I will actually. And the APA, American Psychiatric Association, defines tolerance as the need for markedly increased amounts of the substance to achieve the desired effect, or markedly diminished effect with continued use of same amount. In common English, that means you got to use more to get the same effect that you're getting, and if you don't use more, you're going to get less of an effect. The guy who's drinking 4 beers, if he keeps drinking 4 beers, he's going to get the effect that he got at the beginning. He's going to get the effect of what 2 beers would be, not 4. If he wants to keep feeling that effect of 4, he's got to go to 6. Okay, and then 8. Okay, so tolerance, your body adjusts to the substance, and you got to use more substance to get the same effect that you got. That's not even talking about getting more effect. If you're using 4 beers, let's just make it simple. You probably got to use 6 to get the effect of 4, and then you got to use 8 to get the effect of 6.
Wouldn't that happen to anybody when they're addicted or not? That would just happen.
Yeah, that's a sign. Yeah.
I see.
But that
But the
doesn't
fact that
happen
that's
to normal
happening-
people
I see.
that are recreationally using.
I get it. Okay.
Because they know that might. That's a sign of telling you when that pops up, are you getting the same effect that you're getting before? Right? That's a signal. That's a sign to you, right? That there's a lot of usage. So for Tatiana, you know, the guy might try to lie. If he answers to you, well, I'm not getting as buzzed from 4 as I used to get, that's telling us that he's drinking a lot. So if he's only drinking once a week, you know, then it can't be true if he's 4 is not like it used to be. Right? There are all different kinds of ways that, you know, you can come around. Okay,
But it's not
so that's tolerance.
That's not escalation. The escalation is when the client is looking to get a...
Well, there will be escalation.
Yeah, but the tolerance...
Tolerance creates escalation. Got it?
So it is connected.
Yes, yes. Tolerance creates escalation. Because in order for the person to get the same amount, he has to take more of that substance.
But isn't that what an addiction is? Is that if there's tolerance but no escalation, then you're not talking about someone that has an addiction?
Not necessarily, you know, because you can get that in abuse, right? So we're talking dependent, we're talking abuse, we're talking this, we're talking that. You can't get tolerance without, no, the tolerance creates escalation, but you know, that, true, but that doesn't necessarily mean addiction. That could be abuse.
Right, but that's what I said. Only an addict will,
Doesn't
once
mean
they
addict.
have time.
Doesn't mean addict. It could just be an abuser. It could be half the kids that we see. When we use the term addict, we got to be careful, right? Because if we go and tell these guys that are 70% of the kids that are in some of these yeshivas, they're addicts, they're not addicts.
They're not.
No, they're not. But yet they do have abuse, and they do have signs of abuse, which can be tolerance. It can be things like this too. So if you're seeing tolerance, right, and you're seeing escalation, are you looking at addiction, dependency, or are you looking at abuse?
But are you treating an addict differently than like a heavy abuser?
What do you mean by treating?
When you're treating them to help them overcome whatever their inappropriate relationship is. When you have someone that's really an addict.
Well, once you've got someone that's really an addict, okay, then this person has to understand that he cannot use on a controlled basis at all. An abuser has some room, a little bit more room. Someone who is addicted, his denial system is going to be a lot stronger. He might have to go to rehab. Might have to go to an IOP, an intensive outpatient program. He can't, go back. There's a stronger argument for that guy not going back to like using occasionally, because that's what they all want to do. They all want to I've treated thousands of people, Very few of them want to stop from the beginning, completely. They just don't want to. What they want to do is they want to use differently. They want to be able to use in some controlled basis, whatever that thing is. And that's the argument that we have to deal with all the time. Am I right? All the time. Well, maybe I can, right. So, yeah, there's going to be tolerance, there's going to be escalation. This is not, it's not like a snapshot thing that happens in one session. I mean, the more experience you have, the more sense you have based upon other things going on. But yeah, tolerance creates escalation, and that is a tip-off that there's a problem. Now, degree of problem, kind of problem, what problem, when we have to go and deal with.
Could you define somebody as addictive? I'll give you a scenario where maybe there will not be the tolerance problem. For instance, that he stops and starts and goes back and he's rationalizing that he's really off and then goes back again.
You could have cyclical using. You could have cyclical using. All different cyclical cycles, binge using. Binge using. You can have all kinds of things. This is not a black and white thing here, right? This is why it's tricky, and you got to be seasoned, the experience, and you can't. But because once the guy thinks that you don't got him, he's out of there. Even if he's there, his butt is there, his head is out of there because you don't got him. So there's all different kinds of things that can occur. You can have cyclical, you can have binge using.
What do you mean got him?
Got him means
Understand.
Doesn't
feel understood.
He says, okay, this guy's off. And once you're off, it's very hard to get back on. I mean, my father last time told me there's two things that are very, easy to get, very hard to get rid of. One of them is a bad reputation. Easy to get, hard to get rid of. The other one is body odor. Easy to get, bad, hard to get rid of, okay? But, so, you don't want to miss it, right? You want to go slow, you don't want to start judging and throw these labels around, but there's cyclical, there's all different kinds of binge using, there's all different kinds of this. There's guys we see in yeshivas, that, for months, they don't use during this month. They don't. Then they go home, but they can come back, so they're not dependent. They're not dependent. If they were dependent, they would be needing to use it on a more regular basis. There's all this kind of stuff going on. And they're going to come to you with well, you see, so if I really had a problem, I would, okay, so you know what, buddy? Okay, no. So you're not dependent on it, wonderful. But, but what happens is that when you start using, you can't stop at that period of time. That's the problem. Then the other question, which is more for later, but I'll tell you now, is there's a lot of focus, counselors, therapists, addiction people, in histories and even in ongoing relationship and even ongoing treatment, put on the using. When they do a history, how often are you using? Can you stop? Yes. I can only, let's see you stop. Okay? Set guidelines for stopping. Wonderful. We'll put guidelines, okay? Once a week. I'll just do it once a week. Let's say the guy can do it. Okay? 3 weeks he comes back, he's honest with you, he's working with you, he trusts you, because he believes you're not going to tell anybody because confidentiality, because you don't want to lose money. Okay. So let's say he actually only does drink once a week. Okay. Looks like everything's fine. Let's say he doesn't get wasted. Looks like everything's fine. Is everything fine?
No.
Why?
Because it's a very short period of time.
Let's say 3 months.
Because you're not working on the underlying reasons.
Okay.
It'll come back. It'll come back. It's just a matter of time.
Okay. I'll tell good. But I'll tell you another reason why everything isn't fine. Because you didn't ask a question. It's a question you didn't ask. And that question isn't how often are you using? That's a good question. Once a week, wonderful, fine. We have a deal. Once a week. Yes, once a week. See, no, I can control it. Once a week. Been a year. What's the question that's not asked that needs to be asked?
I think, what else are you using?
Pardon?
What else are you using?
No, good, but again, I'm thinking about something else. What's a very important question? Here's another thing. You get this. You get this question that you didn't have before an hour ago, and you put it in your toolbox, and you're much more effective. What's the question?
Maybe are you thinking about it? How
Yes.
much are you thinking about it?
Yes, that's the question. How much are you thinking about it on the days you're not using? Let's say you're only using once a week on a Thursday night. You're thinking about it Monday morning? You're thinking about it Tuesday? Are you waiting for Thursday? You got Thursday planned out already? Tell me Tuesday morning what Thursday looks like. They'll tell you. Thursday looks like this. That means, that there's more of a problem than what you see. You got to ask that question. They're preoccupied. That's preoccupation. Remember we talked about numbers?
I talked about
That's preoccupation. Right? And that's a very important question.
That's defining relationship.
That helps define the relationship.
Steps
That helps define the relationship.
But I don't know, I don't remember exact words, but I hear all the time in AA, people say, thank you God for taking away the obsessive,
Right.
Compulsive thought.
That should happen if a person's working a program. This guy, usually that doesn't happen when a person is drinking once a week. Or regularly, if he's drinking alcohol, it's a problem. Or smoking marijuana regularly, or whatever.
Isn't that why they say food addictions are some of the hardest to treat, because you have to eat?
Yeah. So food addiction's a whole, but food addiction's a whole other thing, because when you're talking about food addiction, you're not talking about eating food. So in other words, what's food addiction?
A relationship with food.
Yeah, but
you
what?
still have to eat it.
Yeah, but what does food addiction like? Look, in other words, okay, alcohol is simple. You just don't drink. Okay, if you drink, you relapse. Okay, you don't drink. Okay, drugs do. Food, it's not eating food. It's certain foods like white sugar, white flour, sugar, white flour, amounts, binge eating, chocolates, when you eat, all that kind of stuff. I won't work with food addiction. I believe it's a specialty. And I'm a pretty good addictions guy. I won't work. I will work with it with somebody who's in recovery from the behavioral component of it, who is not acting out on it. I get guys who have been to OA and how. Also, you got to be careful about anorexia and bulimia and things like this. But if you don't have that, You got guys that go through HOW, which is one of the food addiction programs, and OA, Overeaters Anonymous. Those guys that are on food plans, that are clean, they're doing well, that have emotional issues that are coming up later, I'll work with those guys. But I will not work with an active food addict because it's very tricky. Okay. It's very tricky.
You never mentioned smoking. It doesn't come to this
Yeah.
category.
So smoking is a whole another world.
Another.
It's another world. It's it's very addictive. Nicotine has been labeled the most addictive substance known to mankind. Has been.
Could it be that it's not the nicotine?
It's a whole nother world.
400 chemicals they put in the cigarette.
Well, there's all the other stuff. Yeah, but it's now there are treatment centers, who will use, not in the past, up until recently, treatment centers would allow people to continue to smoke cigarettes, just maybe not in the buildings because of government regulations and things like this. But you go to any AA meeting, many of them, they're smoking or non-smoking. There are many smoking meetings. It's not utilized in that way. Now, there are treatment centers right now that will not let, when a person comes in, they cannot smoke the whole time that they're there. I personally think that's a problem because it's too difficult. Dr. Tversky told me a long time ago, when the way you know a guy's an addict, Yonah, is when he comes to you and he's drinking and he's smoking cigarettes, and he says, well, since I'm going to get quit, I'm going to quit smoking cigarettes too. I'm going to quit everything right now. He says, no good. He says, you don't fight 3 fights at the same time. You fight one fight, and you fight the other fight. Okay, you'll be shocked with the number of people you'll see in NAA meetings that are smoking cigarettes, and sometimes they'll deal with that addiction. But to do it all at once, it's very difficult. Okay, I think that we're out of time. Okay, let me just see where we're holding in my sheet over here. Okay, we did tolerance. Okay, so we need to stop. And we'll come back into we'll just continue next time.